Hi, how you doing? And we're going to go on this video over the overall root health program to answer the question. If you're here, you likely are trying to answer this for yourself, and that is, why have you had a limited success in the healthcare continuum for overall pain and optimizing health and performance? And so in this video, we're going to answer that question. We're going to tell you about the secret strategy to solve this problem and then show you how you can start doing that immediately. So, what is the healthcare continuum? Well, there are three categories of care in the healthcare continuum. The first one is medical, which is general medicine and all other surgery and drug specializations like orthopedics, cardiovascular, neurology, gastroenterology, dermatology, endocrinology, all that kind of stuff. Anything with an ology, right? And then the second part is what we call allied health. Now, allied health, that's still in the kind of over, the part that is still controlled and paid for by insurance. And that is physical therapy, chiropractic, diagnostics, stuff like that. And then we get into fitness and wellness, which is outside of that insurance backed or insurance umbrella, right? And then so under that, we have like personal trainers, group fitness, wellness centers, they do the IVs and, special technologies like red light, hyperbaric chamber, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So when we talk about the continuum of care, um, I cut my teeth in the sports performance industry. So I was working at Arizona State, NCAA strength and conditioning. And the way that it worked was that you would have your repair team down here as the orthopedist, the team doc, that sort of thing. And then there would be this little crossover as I went into what we call restore with the athletic trainer. That's the person who's trying to heal you and get you back to, getting you back to being able to play on the field. And then we have the training coach, which is your strength and conditioning coach. That's actually where I was. And you'll see that there was a lot of crossover here between the athletic trainer to the strength and conditioning coach as well. So you see these crossovers. And so the purpose of that was to keep the athlete on the field and performing their best and to recover from or prevent injury and sickness. Again, to keep the athlete on the field and performing their best. And so why don't we have those results with the non-athlete population? Well, it's because the structure looks more like this instead of like this, right? And so we have our medical over here, and then you have this little gap between your primary care physician or your general practitioner. And you have this little gap between the specialists. It might be thinly covered by, your electronic health record that can, that can share information, but really you don't have the practitioners talking to each other a lot. They're usually not even in the same building or anything like that. And then you have allied health way over here. And then you have fitness way over here. And so that is, that's your spectrum of care is very separated. So then we look at physical ability. So the physical ability spectrum, we might also call this the health and performance spectrum, as it is a measure of both. And so you have your repair down here where you have pathology and injury. So if you're in the red zone, you have a disease or you have injury. And then you have your restorative zone where you're really trying to restore somebody back to health. We covered that in one of our earlier slides. And then you have our functional zone where we're really trying to gain better function of what the person does, in terms of like activities of daily living, but building on top of that as well, recreation, occupation, stuff like that. And then you come into strength and conditioning. This is where we get into that zone of competitive athletes. And then all the way at this end, we have people really trying to push genetic potential. This is like Michael Phelps or some of that nature. So this is a full ability spectrum of people that people may have. And then, so this is representative of non-athlete care with respect to the physical state. Down here, let's see if I can get this out of our way. Nope, it won't move. Down here, we have doctors, right? Doctors are working in that pathology and injury zone. And then we have PTs and chiros are kind of working on the repair zone. And then we don't have a whole lot of coverage here. That's why it's in red for chronic pain and other health conditions. We also, this should also be in red, don't have a lot of coverage in the functional zone. What we do have is fitness and wellness kind of covering this zone, but there's no strategy here. There's a whole bunch of disparate services, yoga, Pilates, this and that. There's things that a lot of people like, but it really doesn't have a progressive development approach to it like we do in that slide up above where it went from the orthopedist to the athletic trainer to the strength trainer. There we go. And so the Root Healthcare model helps bring the zones back together so that we have repair, restore, retrain, all following the spectrum of ability and going along that line. And so what Root Health really covers is this restore zone and that functional zone that have kind of been left open so that we bring everything back together as a spectrum of care. All right. And so what is the formula to create success for health and performance? For, whether you're doing this with Root Health or whether you're doing this on your own, what's the formula? What do we need to do? All right. So number one, we need to follow the health performance or the functional performance health model. So what do we need to achieve is what we're answering here. So performance is up on top, which means ability, and health is down here, which means the underlying biomarkers that you might have of health that, you might be affected. You might feel fine up here, but you need to know that these things are good too. Right. So starting off with health, you have cardiovascular health, hormonal optimization, metabolic health, your balanced immune responses, controlling inflammation, and controlling your anxiety and stress responses on a physiological basis. Up here with performance, we need to make sure, you got proper mobility, you have coordination, you have cardiorespiratory strength, and you have, muscular strength, the ability to move and, to move other things. And so, you go, hey, I want to get all of these things. What do I need to do to achieve all those things? Well, you need to, cover these 8 zones. And that is stress reduction, specific conditioning, social, you got to have a good social life, recovery, friends and family up here in social life. You need to be able to recover well. You need to have, a proper activities of daily living going on. We need environmental interface, the way that you get sunlight and get out into the nature and stuff like that. And then we have general conditioning and nutrition. All of these are things that need to be done and need to be controlled in order to achieve a healthy, balanced level of this. So you might say, oh man, that's a lot. How do I strategize that? Well, the major principles and characteristics you need to have in your strategy is, number one, it needs to be diagnostically centered, meaning you need to know where you're at. You need to know what your goal is and should be to have all that. And then you need to know what the progress markers are along the way. You need to have tracking. So that's what diagnostically centered or assessment centered is. You need to make sure that it is physiologically progressive and comprehensive. So that means you need to be matching the spectrum of physical ability with the process in which you follow. So when I was talking before as how these disparate programs in fitness and wellness kind of go, they don't really follow a physiologically progressive or comprehensive strategy. And so what happens is maybe you're missing right here, and this person's trying to get from this level up to this level. And how does that work? Well, what happens is they kind of fall sometimes. And that's where we get something like, some of those circuit training based things where, you got somebody coming in and they're really down here at this level. And then those circuit training things are like, all right, let's work up at this level. And well, what happens? They get injured, you get hurt, you have, over inflammation, overwork injuries, stuff like that. And so, you end up hurt and feeling worse by trying to work up here when you're really down here than you would actually getting success. So you need to be physiologically progressive and comprehensive. And then it needs to be holistic, meaning the body works as a unit, and meaning you need to cover all these areas. That's what holistic means. All right, and so with respect to that, what's the best way to implement that strategy? Well, that's where the Root Health system comes in, and that's what we do is our overall concept. Now, again, you can do this on your own. You can do it with a little bit of our help, or you can do a lot of it with our help, or like I said, do it all on your own. This may be all you need. The overall concept is that it is movement focused. Movement is missing in a lot of our healthcare. Movement focused, functional health and performance system. And so chronic pain is our central focus because if you can't move, it's very difficult to optimize health and or performance. And so the components that you need to implement for this are, you need to have, again, assessment, testing, and diagnostics. You need to optimize nutrition. We have manual therapy that helps keep you mobile beyond what you can do on your own. We have movement training that is teaching you the formula of how to do it on your own. And then we have structured guidance, which is helping you to implement all these strategies with resources to pull it all together. Those are the aforementioned tracking and all that kind of stuff. Tracking, education, all that kind of stuff. And so what's the best way to put these components into action? Well, that is when you use us. If you can do this on your own, fantastic. But, you can use us as well. And we do this in 3 service layers. So first of all, we have functional health performance advisement. We call it functional health advisement, but it is following that health performance spectrum. Then we have restorative movement therapy, and we have functional performance training. And we'll talk about that right here. So functional health performance advisement, layer 1. So what's it for? Well, it is to optimize health and execute a complete strategy towards your health and performance in order to give you confidence, clarity, and certainty in the outcomes and show you those markers along the way, show you that you're going in the right direction towards keeping focus on that goal and how you're going to get there and that you are getting there along the way. So many people fall off because, they think they're not getting to where they need to be, but yet they really are. And they just haven't had somebody show them that they're on the right path. Who participates? All of our clients participate in this part of the program, either, at some level. They don't have to be fully immersed into this, but at some level, all the clients do. Both our remote clients and our hybrid clients participate in this, and this is administered online in online coaching sessions or in a do-it-yourself type model that you can use. So what do we do? Well, we customize your diagnostic and assessment strategy and design that out for you. And we do strategy design to take what we learn from those diagnostics, testing, and assessment and strategize so that you can get the best bang for your buck in your efforts, basically. And then nutritional optimization and execution. So much out there. I see, that, you'll see professionals going, hey, we give you a nutrition plan. I'm like, a plan doesn't, you can go and buy books and get a plan. We plan and then also help you execute and pivot that plan so that you actually get the results you're looking for. Then activities of daily living. We need to increase activities of daily living. And this is where, it's like walking to work. It's walking up the stairs. It's planning things. It's getting around, making your life more active. And we'll implement a plan for that with you too. Then we help you implement and execute your independent exercise program so that you don't have to have, somebody working with you that's going to count reps and stand with you the entire time. You can do all this stuff on your own. However, we do have, other things available for you to, if you do need feedback and somebody teaching you, that we have that too. Then we have your recovery strategy and execution there. So again, recovery is a large part of this. You need to understand how to recover appropriately, because that's when you actually get the gains from your exercise program. Is the exercise is the stimulus, the nutrition is the stimulus, and then the recovery is helping the body put that into rebuilding. Then we have psychological self-conditioning. So we have certain, everybody has psychological hurdles that they need to get over, myself included. And so we go through this with you as well. And then strategy and pivoting to life. So if you have a strategy that you're trying to implement, and then you have, you got a meeting at work comes up, you have friends show up in town, you have all sorts of things happen, and we need to show you how to get how to cover those things that are in your strategy when life happens. These are administered in group advisement sessions 4 times a week if you do the group one, and or individual advisement sessions in a customized program that we have for you too. We can talk more about that in detail between us, but in order to figure out what the right way for you is, or you could go without actual advisement sessions and do the DIY version. All right, then we have restorative movement therapy. That is level or layer 2. And most hybrid clients participate in this. This is primarily an in-person strategy. This is for optimizing movement. We will we eliminate or alleviate pain by eliminating tissue restriction and restoring coordination patterns of your body, so that we can get those muscles that really have been kind of offline back online. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, if we're doing this. We restore the ability of your body to move optimally for your life activities, to get you injury resilient and performing your best. We use chiropractic therapy primarily, and this is where we'll do stretch, percussion, cupping, fascia release, of course, customized to what your body's needs are. And then we do restorative exercise therapy that is taught in person, but you execute primarily independently. Again, we can also, this also has an online version that we can do with you too. All right. And level 3. Level 3 is functional performance training. And not all of our clients do this. Some of our clients do this. It is appropriate for those who want to work on fitness and or performance. The first 2 levels are really focused on quality and strategy. Quality, strategy, and execution. This level is focused on quantity, on being able to get that work capacity and performance capacity levels that you might get at working, doing those really hard workouts and stuff like that. These are working on bringing those quality and quantity elements together. So again, it can be done in and or out of the gym. Like we have Grant here working outside, working with us at a park. And then, we can do it online or in person. And what do? We do athleticism, strength, cardio, those basic things that everybody needs to accomplish. All right. What pulls all of our levels together? What makes it all work? Well, we have the RootHealth Institute. This is our resource hub. And on this resource hub, we have an educational platform. We have community and messaging and all that kind of stuff to make sure that you know what's going on, how it's working. You can collaborate with other people in the community, and all that can work together. We have your electronic health record. which is where we house all of our assessments, all of our tracking, all of, a lot of our messaging, that kind of stuff. We have the Root Health training app, which is for performance and movement. Your performance app. This is where you go in, you see these videos. They'll tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and you can track that on a daily basis. And then we have other resources, which you can see all over here, and you'll be able to see that on the RootHealth Institute, which is free to join. And so, who do we work with here at the Root Health, Root Health Applied Sports Sciences? Who do we have the best success with? Well, first of all, we have to state that we're non-pathological, meaning we do not diagnose or cure disease or injury. So what we do is we assess and balance in order to work with chronic pain, other health conditions, and improve performance. So we are highly successful with chronic pain, back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, all that kind of stuff, and chronic health conditions, cardiovascular disease, respiratory conditions, cardiovascular conditions, metabolic conditions. But we don't diagnose. So we don't diagnose, but we do influence performance and health markers with condition-specific prescriptive exercise and nutrition. So health and movement optimization, we help you look, feel, move, and perform your best. And so a lot of people ask us, they say, well, how is this compared to the other health or movement science approaches? Well, if we look at like physical therapy works in that repair zone that we talked about earlier, not really the restore zone. So it only really, and then also they only really work for mechanical injuries, tissue mechanics, when there might be a lot more to chronic pain than that. It might be a nutritional thing. It might be an inflammation thing. And we'll be able to identify that where maybe physical therapy doesn't quite do that. So we are a very good complement to physical therapy. Personal training and fitness, again, we're a good complement there because they do exercise only and only gym training, where we focus outside the gym, activities, nutrition, all those other aspects that we talked about. Chiropractic, they focus primarily on the skeletal system. Again, everything that we're talking about here in respect to comparisons are common comparisons. We can't speak to any individual practitioner, but chiropractic primarily adjusts the skeletal system with no real ability to concentrate on the rest of the body. And when I say the rest of the body, I mean the muscular system as a whole, as how it functions with respect to the nervous and fascial systems. Hopefully I didn't get you too much in the weeds there with anything technical. Functional medicine. Functional medicine is a great complement with what we do because their root cause, we're both root cause oriented. We're both focused on, these deep functional blood panels and stuff like that. But their root cause is gut centered. Our root cause is movement centered. So fantastic crossover there. Wellness is a great crossover too, because wellness really offers all these technologies that are really cool. The IV therapies, the red light therapy, all the, hyperbaric, all these other things that they offer, these technologies. But they don't usually have a lot of strategy that's going to customize it to you. Whereas we have all the strategy of customization, but we don't have the technologies. So that's a really good partnership there. And we do encourage people to do that as well. And then strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning, because this is founded in strength and conditioning science or kinesiology. Strength and conditioning is really a non-season approach that needs, where we need a system rather than a program. What we mean by a non-season approach is that strength and conditioning focuses on performing best at the end of a season. And so you get this cycle that is focused on preseason, in-season, postseason, all that kind of stuff. When, if you're an executive at a company, you don't have that. Your season is, doesn't have that sort of a structure. It's life, not a season. So it needs a different approach. And then all of these are very good partners and adjuncts to our programs where needed and appropriate. So again, not all of you will use all of those things, but that's where we differ and then fill in the gaps. And so our process, what do you need? What does our process look like? Well, first thing is, we got an intake session. That's where we're going to go through your history, your experience, what your needs are. We're going to set up an assessment plan, and then we'll present fees for your strategy to be considered doing what we call our onboarding course. There's no charge for that intake session. And then, of course, the next thing is your onboarding course, which we just talked about. And then in that onboarding course, it's a short course. It's about 3 to 7 appointments over 1 to 2 weeks, where we'll go over your physical assessments. Some of them will perform in regards to performance, and others will be performed by outside labs and or facilities, for imaging and stuff like that. We're going to also teach you basic skills and concepts that you need to have to go through the entire program. And then we're going to, at the end, we're going to collaborate on a strategy of development for you with respect to your goals, your resources, and where you're at right now, which is what we determine in the onboarding course. Of course, all that, all that measuring and testing and stuff. And then we hop into your program. That's the third, that's the third thing. We hop into your program, which has already been strategized using, our 3-layer approach. And, you get experience success pretty much immediately. You should experience success in those areas absolutely immediately. And, that's how we work. So go down there and click on the button to schedule your intake. I am excited to be working with you. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.